You're listening to a bonus on the Ambitious Bookkeeper podcast. All right. So I want to know, are you still like reeling from the event? We're just diving right in.
I'm still in the cloud. My head is still in the clouds. My feet are on the ground, though. I'm back home, ground floor of my house, but my head is in the clouds.
Yeah, same. Okay.
It's fading, though. Literally, the blue in my hair is fading.
I can see that. I thought it was supposed to last longer than that.
I thought so,
too. It was
too.
semi-permanent.
Semi.
Okay.
It got its day. It had its day in the sun.
Yeah. Okay. So my community requested a podcast with you to hear the story about how all this transpired, but we should back it up a little bit because I was going through my archives of podcasts, and I think we've only recorded one podcast together on my podcast. So, okay. And that was quite a while ago.
So this is round 2. That wasn't it?
And I think back then we promised a round 2 and we never delivered, or maybe we recorded it on your podcast.
That could be it, but this is the real round 2.
You're listening to a bonus on the Ambitious Bookkeeper podcast. So for anyone listening, introduce yourselves, or yourself, and your alternate personality, I guess.
I have 2 selves. I can introduce both of them for sure.
Yeah, so go for it.
So Scott Scarano, the EA who has an accounting firm, that's one guest that you've had on.
And back then you were apparently going by Little Toddler.
I was too. Yeah, that's kind of evolved. So I've always had this like inside of me deep down, this other alter ego, like Eminem's Slim Shady. I've had this other alter rap ego inside of me brewing. You met him. He went by Little Toddler, Lil, that evolved into OKR, just like Sons of CPAs evolved into Accounting High. So there's a few brands bubbling up, evolving, but they're all just behind this whole like Scotty. So that's the other alter ego, really. There's Scott, and then there's Scotty.
Yeah.
So I think that's how I've, Scotty can go by anything he wants, but he's a child. He's very childish. So we can set him aside. He jumps on stage and he has some fun when it's time. Scott's the accountant.
Let's talk about Scott the accountant. And I think if you really want to know the history, definitely go back and listen to the original episode. I won't make you retell your complete origin story. I'm kind of interested in just the last couple years of Scott the accountant and how that has...
He hasn't seen the light of day much for the past couple of years. He's been buried in the back. He's been in a shed somewhere having his own time. He doesn't come out much. And when it's time to come out, he'll do his job. But then he doesn't even want to spend much time out in the day. I still have to do my taxes. They still haven't gotten done. I still have like a couple businesses that I'm running now. All the books on that have not gotten touched. So like he doesn't get too much time because the creative side takes over. And that's what happened to me, at least in the last couple of years. I'm still trying to define what that is right now. And I think he still needs some more time out because he's the one who makes money. He's very profitable. So, and I can talk about him like that because we're cool like that. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So you own Paget, North Carolina is a North Carolina franchise of Paget. Is that how that works? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In the beginning, it was very geographically like located until we found Xero. And I don't know how much I talked about on that episode, but that's where it became nationwide for us, even global for us. Once we started working with Xero there, it wasn't just North Carolina, our office. Our home base, though, is Raleigh, North Carolina. That's where my whole team is. That's where our physical office used to be. That's where a lot of our clients still are. That's how most of them find us, through Google. But then the ones that found us through Xero was all over. So, yeah.
Makes sense. Okay. And right now you are pretty much hands off with that whole venture.
I try to sometimes dabble in there and put my hands on.
Does your team get frustrated with you? They're like, just stay out of it.
They do. Stay out of it. It would have been nice for you to meet my team. They have been to all the previous Zero Cons. This was the first one that they didn't make, actually. Brought my daughter instead of my team
And
this
that
time.
was awesome getting to hang out with her, by the way.
Yeah. She had a great time. Thanks for showing her a good
Yeah.
time. Y'all hung out a lot. But yeah, but it was, I mean, we didn't get to Zero Con yet, but we're kind of like, that was Scott that they went and traveled to all the other Zero Cons with. It wasn't this whole new version. And that's still, it's like that was just the stage version. When I'm not on stage and I'm somewhere else, I'm usually Scott again pretty quickly. That I get embarrassed. I don't want to do karaoke or things like that either. Like when I'm at a group of people, I want to sit in the sidelines. I don't want to dance. I'm pretty shy too, for the most part.
Me too.
So, but if you turn a camera on or do something else, then this other one comes out.
Okay.
So it's like I'm trying to navigate what that means. But that was like the performer though, and that was something that I've had inside of me that I've been wanting to do forever. When I was going to these other Zero Cons with them, just wanting to grow my practice, Zero was tapped into something different. They always did something really cool that made you feel some emotions next to their software too. And that's what I always connected with and resonated with. So that was like pretty cool how they were able to balance that, especially at their conferences. And I was like, I always want to rap one day at a Zero conference. That was like one of my dreams. I saw this guy doing stand-up comedy at one of them. It was like, they dabble into like musical type
And
stuff.
Performances and yeah. Okay. So was that something that you started thinking about because of ZeroCon, or were you already dabbling in doing raps on your own before that bug?
Yeah. I didn't really start doing it till the podcast.
Okay.
This podcast kind of started scratching the entertainment type itch that I had. That was something different. I was looking at it differently too. I wasn't looking at it like a normal person would, like you're doing a accounting related podcast. I was doing it as I just want to have some fun and make this stuff fun. And I was channeling all of that in the activities I was doing outside of the podcast. I was looking at, that's why we do the tournament. That's why I was doing the raps, is because anything that I could pull in to accounting and make it relatable, make it fun, I'll try and do that. I'll test it out. This has all just been experiments and stuff. And I met you around the time of like, it was the first or the last ZeroCon, but also like around when I first started doing the raps.
Okay.
Right around that time too. And you were started dabbling in your singing too around that time, or that's what we bonded over. And it was like, again, I was channeling something different with that. And that was I was getting a lot of positive feedback early on too. It wasn't like, it was a combination of both, something that I've wanted to always do, but also people are getting lit up by it and they get it. It wasn't just going over people's heads. And so that experiment was like tapping into something different. I was making people feel things just like Zero was. And so that was something that I wanted to continue to scratch that itch. And that's when I started burying the other me. And I couldn't sit in front of the computer anymore. Do email. Who wants to sit in front of an email when you can go make people cheer on stage?
That's the real thing behind, I think, most performers and like musicians is like, if you're just trying to evoke emotion out of people. And so if you get a taste of getting that kind of reaction from people, it is super addicting.
Yeah, it is. And I don't think that's very healthy because I'm not doing it every day. It's not like that's my profession. That's not my job. Right now, I'm just kind of doing it like for fun too. So when I do get that, it's like, then I chase the next one. So I'm already going to another conference. I'm going to perform at another conference. Like that'll be fun. That'll be great. Okay. It's in October. So now I've got like this month of like waiting for the next one kind of thing. Okay. And I'll figure out what I'm going to do during that time. I'm trying to make a go of this thing, like a career out of helping people, educating people, not just trying to entertain people in accounting, but I'm actually trying to teach people stuff too. Maybe you can help me with that.
I think we can figure it out.
Yeah.
So What's the time frame? I'm going to jump all over the place with questions because then you say something and I'm like, now I have a new question. I have a list of questions that I was like, I'm going to ask all these
Cool.
things. We'll see. We'll see how long this episode ends up. I definitely have to leave at a certain time. But did you already have this next one lined up before ZeroCon? And I know ZeroCon wasn't your first one anyway, so maybe we should back up and talk about like when was the first rap that you performed?
Okay, so the first one that I teased and then performed took me about 6 months to do. And it was not like a planned thing, but it kind of turned into a planned thing. So I became really close to Twyla, and she was building this FreshBooks accounting partner program. And it was like the first big fresh pack. And she wanted to do something fun and different one of the nights. And they ended up taking everybody out on a boat. And I had been practicing this rap for so long, and she said I could perform it on the boat. There was a DJ there and everything. And it was a bunch of my friends too. It was like 30 people there, you know, all in all, with between the FreshBooks people and all of the accountants that were there. And I did it. And people filmed it, and everybody was lit up. They had a professional photographer there too. So any picture that you see of me like on the socials was probably from performing that night, because that became my headshot everywhere. But that also became my headshot everywhere. Like it was like, that was because I did that was like gave me the confidence to do the next one, but also like the enthusiasm to want to do the next one. And again, like people felt something. They really liked it. They related to it. They laughed at the jokes. Like they caught the lines that I was intending to catch, but it was also a catchy song. It was Outkast's ATLiens. And so that was like a catchy, dancey song. And then so I called it CP Aliens. I'm not a CPA, right? So I'm an alien in that world. But it all worked out. That was a fun one. And that led to me getting the confidence. And right when I met you, I remember our call, I had just got the confidence to write a rap for Expensify. Somehow I thought they were going to take me to Italy as one of the 100 accountants they were going to take. And it's before I sent it to them, and I played the whole thing for you.
And you were like, it was like a reaction video. You're like, I'm going to watch your reaction.
I wanted to see if it landed, if people got it and stuff, like outside of me, because I had just written it. And you got
get
it.
so close to
You
those
liked
things
it.
that you do start to, that's how I am with the songs I write too. I'm like, is this actually good or is it just a pile of trash? And I've just been looking at it for so long that like, I think it's good, but I don't know.
Well, it got me to Italy. It was good enough for that. That's all I wrote it for. And that was pretty amazing. So they paid for a full trip to Italy. I got to take my wife. It was like a dream come true. I'm filming the music video there. And then I meet this guy, Joe Woodard, who said, what if we had you rap at Scaling New Heights? And I didn't know how big Scaling New Heights was. I had never been to Scaling New Heights. This was like 2,000 people, and they were all accountants, and he wanted me to rap and open up the conference. And it wasn't that long from then. It was like a month later, less than a month, and I was supposed to be in Mexico. And then I asked my wife, I said, this is a pretty big opportunity. And they offered to fly me from Mexico to go to the conference. All of these things are just happening like because I started rapping about accounting. Like that was nothing else. I was still doing a podcast before all that stuff. You know, it was just because I started rapping. And that went pretty well. I wrote a new rap for the conference. I filmed a music video in Vegas, and like it was just all running on adrenaline, like chasing that like next performance. I met a whole bunch of great people because that gives you the opportunity to meet a bunch of people, because a lot of people want to meet you after you perform at a conference that big. So like that became another big opportunity, and I'm just still like trying to navigate all that. I don't know how far you wanted me to go with all these things.
Keep going, because
question.
I connect the common thread, but I want the listener to kind of like hear this too, but keep going.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's after?
Then Scaling New Heights was more smaller performances after that, but more meaningful ones in different ways. So the next one I did, I think, was Randy's conference, Bridging the Gap. It was the first Bridging the Gap. And I did something entirely different for that one. I did a Chili Peppers song, and I don't know why I saw the connection. While I was in Mexico preparing for Scaling New Heights, and then I changed it up, and then I did a crazy music video for that. Invited a bunch of fellow accountants to make a music video for that while we were in San Francisco, While I'm doing that, I also wrote the tax accountant's anthem, which was at the tax Twitter conference. All of this stuff is happening all at the same time because my firm's just running in the background. A tax accountant's anthem, filmed a music video for that. That like had its own little moment in the sun during the first tax Twitter retreat. And while that's happening, I'm preparing for Randy's conference. I performed there. That was loads of fun. I performed a new rap that I was working on sort of on the side, not related to anything, but just more about saying no. And then that led to me wanting to do BotKeeper again. BotKeeper comes up, and that was the one that meant the most to me.
Why?
Because it was
Okay.
Eminem's Lose Yourself. That's the one I started working on. And because I got to tell the Eminem story through Enrico, the founder of BotKeeper, which was the story that I wove into the entire song. And then I wrote it, memorized it within 10 days. It was like the idea to perform there. They were having the conference, and then reached out to them. And then within 10 days, I was there, and John Garrett's introducing me on stage. And then I go on, and then I choked. All of that. I had it all memorized, and I choked. But then I played it off like it was Eminem's Lose Yourself. You choke, that was the whole part of the first verse anyway. And everybody laughed at me playing it off. And I got the guy, because I had been rehearsing it anyway. So I didn't know I was going to choke, but I had a feeling I probably would. And then I ended up making a joke about it. And then the second version, I mean, when he replayed it again, it went well. It was great. Everybody cheered. Enrico was crying and like cheering and laughing at the same time. So that's something I always wanted to do, is make somebody cry and laugh, and feel something on stage. Like I said that I did a speaking coach or thing with Misty's Tops program. And I said that on the first one. I said, that's what I want to do. That was like my, my goal. And that was back in January that year. And here we are in October, and I did it. Didn't know how it was going to happen, but that, and then just the reaction I got from the people at BotKeeper and that party. And this was just like, here I am, like a couple of years ago, I'm just an accountant, right? Now I'm rapping about accounting, and these are like things that felt like I found my whole like purpose, right? And then things got, then I had another performance too. Things got dark somewhere in there as well, but I had another performance in Orlando at the Four Seasons at a tax conference, and I performed the tax accountant's anthem to like the crowd there, and they loved it. Same kind of reactions too. Then things got kind of dark, and it was just like, you can't jump from one thing to the next thing to the next thing without having a low period. And I was due for something. It got pretty low. I ended up doing ayahuasca back in January. And this was the next January, right? That the whole like speaking thing, that was the January prior. And this led to this whole like run of doing these crazy chasing, like the ultimate whatever I was chasing. I don't recommend this on anybody because it left me feeling pretty low too. It wasn't the greatest. This year's been a lot more slower and intentional. And I got something different out of doing zero. And I had a different year this year. That year I just described was not the best, because those highs, while they were high, the lows that followed each one was just like my family got to see the worst side of me. And I didn't know any way to control each side of that. So I was also burning out. I basically burned myself out again. And we talked about burnout because we both burned ourselves out during the last previous conversations we had. So that led to basically the lowest of like, I need to go do something. And I found an ayahuasca retreat. I was going to do like a silent meditation retreat or something. My wife was really pushing me to do something. And I just did some search, and I wanted to do something extreme, something like to really push myself.
Never.
And yeah, right. And so, but the ayahuasca was perfect. This is exactly what I needed. It seemed like something a rapper would do anyway, because all these rappers were talking to me about it. And then there's these people in accounting talking to me about it too. So it was like that whole part of this journey was like they all kind of dovetailed, braided together, and it was meant to be. And it was amazing. I know you listened to the episode. Check out episode 200 of Accounting High if you want to hear more about the ayahuasca journey. But yeah, that was life-changing again. And I slowed down, and I got some patience in everything I was doing. And I realized I can live like harmoniously with both of these. Like, it doesn't have to be polar opposites. They don't have to be fighting each other, Scott and Scotty. They could be harmonious as one person. I got to be able to navigate that, though. That's something that, like, you get. It's, I think for somebody that has that, you get it. Like, you've got to be able to shift gears
Yeah.
sometimes too. Shift into a lower gear without failing completely.
Yeah. Okay.
So
So you did ayahuasca, then you did how many more, like between ZeroCon and that, did you do any rap?
I stopped with the music videos, and then I did the performance at Randy's. But one rap that I worked on, so a friend of mine has died in all of this time too. So I'm sure your students may know, or your listeners, Josh Lance died like at around November of last year, around the time when I was at a really low point too. That was really hard to cope with because I knew Josh really well. I would see him at every one of these trips that I would go on. I didn't know how to react to that either. Like, at the time, for sure, I wasn't processing those emotions because I didn't think it was like really happening. It was crazy because I had just seen him when I was filming that music video for the for Randy's conference. He was supposed to be at Randy's conference, supposed to do a session with us, supposed to do a session with him and Kenji at Randy's conference, and he couldn't make it because last minute. All that stuff's happening, and then this year, I'm planning for Randy's conference. I didn't know what I was going to do. I wasn't going to do a new rap. I had last year's. I could change it up a little bit, and Randy said we're going to do something special for Josh. Josh's wife's going to be there. I was like, I'm going to do a tribute song for Josh. That's going to be what the other thing I do there. And I worked on that one. That one was dope. That one really made people cry.
Yeah.
And I wasn't like I couldn't help it with that one too. I wasn't like sitting there trying to make this wasn't about me at all, but that's how Josh was never about Josh. And Kenji's eulogy was so impactful. Like, to me, listening to it and hearing about how Josh was and why we all gravitated to him and why, just the person he was. I mean, if you want to listen to that, I probably will release that at some point. I haven't released that yet at all, but you got to hear Kenji's eulogy. So I'm listening to Kenji's eulogy, trying to write this song, and I was going to take a little clip from it. And so as I'm making this song, these songs go through a lot of iterations as I'm working on them. This was, I didn't know what I was going to do for the hook with this or for something. And I was just going to take a little clip of Kenji's eulogy. He said something about a bird cage, and I made a joke, and bird cage rhymed perfectly. And I dropped the file in there, and it just fit like over the hook. I was going to have Julia, my daughter, does the hooks for the songs. And I was going to have Julia do a hook, and I started to write it, and I couldn't figure it out. But this is Charlie Puth. This is a really popular song. If you might know the one I'm referring to. But Kenji's eulogy was over top of Charlie, and it all lined up so perfectly that right when Kenji said something about his eulogy, about Josh saying something, my rap started. And it was like, and then so I chopped it up a little bit after my rap started, and I moved it a little bit more, but it fit the core parts of the eulogy in with the song too, with the rap, and the story I was trying to tell was told better through Kenji. So it was my first song with Kenji on it together, featured with him. And I've always wanted to do a song with Kenji. He's always too busy. He said he would do a rap if I wrote it right, and he, if the timing was right. But this meant so much to him too. Like, this was the most impactful thing I could have done. And I spent probably like the better part of 3 weeks just doing that, just working on that. I went to a studio and mastered it. It was super dope.
Yeah, you sent it to me. It's really good. Yeah.
Oh, I did send it. I sent you the early version.
It's different.
I rewrote it and I redid the second verse. But yeah, that was really cool. And I met Josh's wife for the first time at that conference. And she came up to me and she was like, she had really wanted to meet me, but she hadn't heard the song yet. So that meant a lot. Like, I sent a video to Josh. It was something that she saw. And so I got to meet her without like her even hearing that. So then when I saw her, she heard the song for the first time. Wow. It was pretty super cool. So that was a big moment I had doing this whole stuff in here. And that was like, again, just because of the whole accounting, world that I'm in, that led to that opportunity to be able to do that. And that meant a lot. Like, we didn't even talk about the Zero thing yet. That's what came next. That was only a few weeks ago,
Yeah.
though, that thing in Chicago.
Okay.
So,
So that was before you actually got to ZeroCon, but you already had the ZeroCon stuff
yeah,
in the works at that point.
it
Yeah.
was already done. The Zero
Well, the
rap
wrap was
was
done.
completely done. Yeah. So Zeros I've been working on since April,
All right. Yep.
as you know. As you
So
know.
now here's the part of the story that people really wanted to hear. Like, how did this happen? I guess maybe what we should rewind
Yeah.
a little bit. I think maybe on the last episode that we did together, that might have been around the first one of your first raps that you did that you sent to me. It was the Infinite Cynic rap. And I
Yeah.
recorded a hook and sent it back to you, like pretty much without your permission. I was like, let me sing on this. So that's how we ended up doing this together. But you did ask me to do a rap with you or a hook on something else because I was going back through our messages and I was like, oh, I dropped the ball on one of these because I was in a really dark point of
Okay.
life.
Yeah.
And thank you for giving me another opportunity.
Well, that was a very important. So that was Eminem's first, like, from his first album, and I've always in my head wanted to do these parodies of Eminem in order. So that was the first Eminem parody I ever did because it came first. And well, I did one of Haley's song for my daughter 2 years ago at her quinceanera, but that one in particular, we're not going to play it because I don't think it's my best work for sure. But what you did there was like you took it and you added another layer to it, another dimension to it that I didn't even see. And you made it more palatable so people could have at least listen to it. Because again, early Eminem is not like something that everybody should be listening to either. It wasn't the best. It wasn't what it is now, let's just say. So that was an important part of my journey too. So I log those things. You plant a little seed there. It's going to sprout at some point. And it sprouted last week. That's pretty dope. We had a pretty cool performance. Sorry to put everybody through all of that. You asked me a few questions and I just kept talking because I had to work through a lot of this narrative in my head too. So thank you for everybody putting up to getting us here.
It also lays the like scene of how you ended up here. And then one of the common things is like, it's not all luck though. You know what I mean? That's the other thing is like, you've been putting in the work to get better. And then you've made the ask. So talk about.
Yeah, let's get there. So all of these other things that I had been doing, I pretty much asked for all of them, right? Like I wouldn't have been performing if I didn't suggest the idea, except for Scaling New Heights. That was Joe Woodard's idea, and he achieved exactly what he wanted out of that. It was his vision, but every other one was like my vision. And I saw this as something that I wanted to do. I always wanted to rap at ZeroCon, and in April, they emailed the former X-Packers. So I've been on X-Pack as Scott. You know, that was like I was growing my firm, excited about Zero. They invited me on X-Pack. I was on one of the early X-Packs, and they were inviting all the X-Pack alumni to a special dinner before the pre-con, like day before the convention, and they were sending this out because they wanted people to work on their plans because they were inviting people from Australia, South Africa, UK, Canada, and here for all a big gathering. And I replied to it, I want to rap at ZeroCon. and I listed out all the things. So everything that I just said, I listed out like these are all the conferences that I've rapped at. These are how many accountants I've rapped in front of. Basically, I'd been working on a portfolio to send them, and they took it seriously because within like an hour of that night, I got a text from Ben Richmond saying, we're going to have you rap at ZeroCon. We're working out all the details on our end. Stay tuned. Whew, man, that was like it. Then it was serious, and didn't know what song I was going to do, but I knew it was going to be epic. I knew what everything, it was going to be perfect. And I'm talking to my team about it. What song should I do? And I'm like, I want like a deity where somebody's worshiping a god or something like, and I was like describing what I knew I was going to do, but I didn't know the song yet. I didn't have it connected. Shout out to my son, Frankie. I was at his soccer practice with my headphones on, zoning out like I do, just listening to music, trying to figure out what song I'm going to do. And I'm playing some Kanye, and Jesus Walks comes on. And the skies parted, the seas parted, and everything made sense. This was it. And I knew it. I knew the hook already when I heard it. When I heard Jesus Walks, I heard Zero Works. And I saw the whole stadium and I saw everybody cheering it too. But I was scared. The minute that I heard that, I was scared that they weren't going to let me. And they weren't going to let me do Kanye because Kanye has not been very good to the public eye as of lately. Not too many. Everybody wants to distance themselves from Kanye. Adidas and oh god, it's a sorry sight. Like right now, I don't even want to talk about Kanye. We shouldn't.
So did you
God, it was a
did
perfect
you
song.
not like mention what the parodies are based off of in fear of that? Like just let's just send them the lyrics that you have and hope no one notices, or like okay.
Oh no! They
Okay.
heard it. Well, those. This is what went in my head immediately. Was they weren't going to let me do it as just Kanye. So somewhere subconsciously, I also knew that that other song that I did, that I ended up using to like for the majority of it was a perfect song to do, but nobody
Yeah.
would know it. This was a cannabis song, and I had lodged this one in my head too because whenever I think of Zero, I listen to that song a lot. Not too many people know it, but it was a very popular song in my headphones at the time. And so I've already got that one somewhat memorized in my head anyway. I fluently kind of knew it. I knew the beat, inside out, and I knew that hook. And I was going to use the same hook, but it was tuned into channel zero. And I was like, that's what we're doing. We're tuning into channel zero. The way that he sets up the intro to that, I did a parody of that too. Like approximately 18 years ago under the
Yeah.
direction. We can
We'll
play it
add
at the end of the
the
episode so they
song
can
in
hear
at
it.
the
Yeah,
end of this episode for sure.
for sure. Ian's got that down. All of that stuff worked, and I knew I could cover up enough of the Kanye to where it would be just as impactful if I didn't do the whole thing, and it wouldn't be just about that. And that way I can do both. And so I saw the medley, and so it all orchestrated like kind of as it was unfolding. And this was around the time was early May, around that time. And then once I had it all written and everything, I just thought, I'm not that good on stage. I need somebody up there with me. I need something that's like confidence boosting a little bit. And I thought, well, Serena's done a hook for me before. And I text you, and I don't know what you thought. Like, so at that moment, now you can step into this part of the conversation
Yeah.
here.
So yeah, you texted me and I don't know if you're into the whole like what are they called? The personality things. Anyways, I'm a generator. So it's like I get like a sacral like yes or no immediately when I get faced with a question. If I ignore that and try to like logically change my mind based on logic, it usually ends
Mm.
not well. But you texted me that and it was an immediate yes. Like before it was like a full body yes. I was like, hell yes, I'm in. Like I will figure it out. Not passing this one up.
Dope.
So
So yeah, so that worked out. I also wanted to have my daughter perform it as well, but I did not think she would want to. Her immediate would have been no, and her immediate was no when I floated the idea to her. I didn't want to. I didn't want to pressure her. I knew that she would be great on the song, so I already knew how that was going to work out, and it worked out perfectly. But I saw it in my head as like I knew you would want to too. I knew that this would be a great opportunity, and I think and it turned out exactly as I had visioned it. And my daughter still got to be on the track, and she still got to
yeah.
be there and watch it and hear herself up there too, like she's been on almost all of my songs. So that was still part of it too, as part of the story, and for the context too. When I said the first Eminem song I did was Haley's song for my daughter's 15th birthday, this was her 17th birthday watching this. So that was pretty cool
Yeah.
too. So back to like the moment when you said you would, I knew you would. And I wasn't doubting at any point, even when you like, and we didn't talk about it for weeks, and I'm still working on all the details and everything. I knew we'd figure it out. And were you going to try to convince yourself to back out at some point, at any point, or were you just like, how is this going to work out? Or were you questioning it
You
at all?
know, normally that's my pattern for sure. Like I have made myself sick to be able to back out of things. Like not in sort of intentionally, but like I've manifested becoming ill in order to get out of things big
Sure.
like that are like
Sure.
really uncomfortable. And that's something that I've like tried to really work on in the past like several years of healing of like, you know what, I should just be the person that I want to be and stop instead of like having these little excuses and like, yeah, it's going to be freaking uncomfortable, but I've been doing the work. Like I've been wanting to get up on stage. For me, it was just this last January was the first time I got up on stage.
Yeah.
But writing my own music, performing with solo and with other people. And so I knew I had already put in enough work to be able to just kind of power through it and like, I will figure this out. And I didn't really ever
Mhm.
have doubts or want to back out of it, which is crazy because normally I would for sure. But I was just like, no, this is a thing that's going to happen. XeroCon is a dream stage for me too, although it was like for speaking.
Well, same with me
But it's funny how the
in a way. But well, so here's why it made so much sense to me for you to be on was because you use Zero. Like, I'm an accountant that uses Zero. That's really why I'm rapping about it at its core. You are an accountant who uses Zero. That's really why you would be singing about it at its core. You weren't just some Dave's Highway or some Ashland Craft that they found and
yeah,
pulled in. You were somebody that would have already been there to
yeah,
begin with. So that's why it made sense. Like, all of it made more sense, and I think that was the most impactful thing they could have done, and that's why they made it the heart of the conference, right
yeah,
in
that
the
was
middle,
perfect actually.
too. Yeah, that was perfect. At first, I was like, "Oh man, I would have liked to have opened it, or I would have liked to have
Yeah,
closed it." But nah, I think that was the best spot. So they had us positioned in a 2-day conference at the beginning of the second day. For anybody that didn't
yeah.
make it or doesn't
And
know the context
honestly,
of it.
them doing that probably increased the attendance that they would have had on day two and on that keynote stage in that main stage area because not
Not
by
by
that
that
much.
much. We
I
had a little
mean,
bit of a crowd. We had a pocket, but that was
it
a
was a
big
big
room.
room, but it
That
was
was a big
fuller than
room,
I
and it
thought it
felt
would be.
empty. It was fuller once we got up on stage. It was fuller, but they showed the wings on the side, and when you see the wings, it's a huge room. And unless that room was at max capacity, those wings aren't going to be full because everybody's going to want to sit
Yeah.
in the middle. And that middle area is big. And we got to see the scope of it and how big it was once we actually got out there, but it looked empty from our
Yeah.
perspective. So still, I mean, it was a very big conference all in all. Yeah. So that was a big opportunity for you, me
Hmm.
as well. And leading up to it, I felt calm and cool and prepared and ready, and I was excited. I never let on that I was nervous because I wasn't nervous up until the rehearsal.
I know. But you know what?
Oh, it got
Because
bad. I physically got
you
like
did.
ill.
Yeah. Well,
I did.
because you were feeling that way during the rehearsal, I think is what enabled the actual performance to go so well because we kept running. Like we ran through it like 4 or 5 times. Okay.
5 times.
I stopped
Yeah.
counting. I was just like, whatever, do it again.
Yeah.
But
You were okay. You were helping me during the rehearsal, and I was a basket case because I had gotten in my way immediately once we got on the top of that escalator, and I knew we were about to rehearse. I got completely shut out. I like lost everything for a moment. Like I had to meditate. I couldn't do anything. I got locked up, and I was nervous, and I don't know why, and I couldn't get out of it. And even after the rehearsal, I probably should have loosened up, had some alcohol or something to loosen myself up. But I have a very strong mind, and I want to get through something, and I got to figure it out. And everything was going wrong at that moment. I looked at what they had, and it turns out what they did was actually really cool, and I almost had them remove it. But anything that deviated from what was in my original vision of this was off or wrong to me at that moment, and I couldn't be convinced otherwise. And so I was going to sabotage the whole thing. It worked out
it
okay.
did. Everything was fine.
It all did. It all
Yeah.
did, didn't it?
Yeah. It actually worked out better than I could have imagined. Like the MC, you talked to him in the green room ahead of time and you were like, please make sure everyone's standing up. And that was a game changer because now you look
Yeah.
at the videos and the pictures and people are like cheering, standing up. It was pretty cool. And it just started like,
Yeah. And that was a big difference at Scaling New Heights. Scaling New Heights, nobody was informed to stand up. And I tried to get people to stand up, and nobody wanted to be the first one to stand up because everybody would see that they were the first person to stand up, and nobody stood up at Scaling New Heights. That's okay. I was still newbie. And I found out through John Garrett and others that have helped me throughout this process was you got to get people off their feet or else they won't. And you got to have somebody else do it before you get up there. If you try to do it, it'll work okay, but it'll feel better if somebody else has done it to warm them up for you. And so you need a hype man. That's what he always said. And so that was going to be your job until we had him.
I was ready for it. I got the fringe on my jacket.
Yeah. You still got everybody hyped. Everybody was cheering when you came on too. So he got everybody on their feet. And man, that worked out great because I did the Star Wars thing. And at first I wasn't going to put that there because you couldn't see the visuals that Ian created. So our editor, Ian, created all these cool visuals that Zero said we couldn't use.
We're going to plant them we're going to do that at the end of this video because this is going on YouTube.
Cool.
So we can we can show people.
Good. Yeah. So yeah, well, it'll see the light of day. That was like, it all came together. People immediately got it. Like they were on their feet, and the Zeros really. So well, let's kind of tell the story first. But when I say the Zeros, I mean all the Zero employees that came from all over the globe. They were really like this connected with them because I told their story. I told Zero's story in the beginning there. And that was all facts, that I pulled from, and I used from Cannabis's song. I used his same narrative style. He was talking about America, and I turned it into Zero. It's pretty cool the way it all kind of came together.
Yeah, I agree.
So stay on your feet, put your hands together, and please welcome Scotty OKR Scarano. Approximately 18 years ago, under the direction of New Zealand's Raj Brewery and in the interest of computer security, a single unified ledger, Accounting 2.0, was established. This tool's primary objective was to decentralize accounting and spread this software-as-a-service model across our planet, connected by a global network of remote services called the cloud. Zero showed the masses what an app was with cash codes and shatter the globe's reliance on desktop as we know it. I'm talking about the great invention around 2007 when Zero would grow out of New Zealand for technologically advanced tenants, simple finance, safe program, and browser-based sessions. 2012 had lots of skeptics, and the mobile version of our domestic desktop was pathetic. You can reject it for its soothing blue aesthetic and fail to recognize the beauty inside these debits. A very high percentage of accountants in our nation green console worshipping desktop applications. For more construction of on-site server pricing installation, redundant ongoing IT maintenance. They gave us real-time information can take place in several different team locations. Unlimited seats and easy collaboration. For ecosystem customization, choose your own software application. Goes through application programming interfaces. They create integration. Two-step secure authentication. National Zero ambassadors. People like Liz Mason, they speak and teach and make certifications. They're trying to free Western civilization from green domination. Well, you need to know that they changed the game. Cloud-based safe space with a beautiful interface. Give it up for the ambitious bookkeeper, Serena Shu. We at war. We at war with road ledgers and IRS agents. Most of all, we at war with broken bank connections.
Okay. So now that we're still coming down from, I'm so glad you scheduled this interview like quickly, because I was like, I want to talk about it while everything's still fresh. And we're just going to drop the episode like almost immediately as soon as it gets, just as a bonus,
Cool.
because I think it's important to get this out here. But
Dope.
otherwise it wouldn't be out until like October, because I'm really batched ahead. So now that this is over, you do have another one coming in October, and you did
hmm
hint at, I've been following comments on LinkedIn. You did hint that there's something in the works for a future zero situation. Are you allowed to share with that?
Yes. I don't have any real
Oh, damn
details of that yet. That is, I'm hinting at it because it's probably a reality, but that's only because, yeah. I mean, but that's how this one started too. I would think so. I don't know when the next ZeroCon is, but I would think that within my next few interactions with them, I will have some idea of what it looks like. I don't know though, because I don't even know if I'll do the same song, because this song doesn't land, because this was made for the US. Like all the songs and the references are
Yeah.
QBO and all that. So if I do something there, I would just do the Jesus Walks
Yeah.
part, and then maybe change up the beginning or do something different. I don't know. But that's all honesty is, yes, that would be cool. But that was just teased like on LinkedIn. The whole plan, like as far as was supposed to be, this might be my last. I already convinced myself that I'm going to do October, but this was going to be like where I try to tame this and hold back and do less, or I'm just getting started. I know I teased that too. So it was either, the whole theory was, if this doesn't go well, that's fine, because I gave it my all. I gave it my best shot, and maybe it landed with a few of my friends and they got it, and that was it. And I can just go back to, running a business or doing something, making some money. Or it goes really well and then it turns into something else, and maybe it does give me an opportunity to go to Australia or London or other places too, just under this whole accounting umbrella or cloud umbrella. So we'll see how that trickles out. It's still like, I just know that it did go well. The reaction that we got from the audience within that conference, you felt it. It was pretty electric. It was electric blue.
Yes. Yes. Not unlike your hair.
It was, yeah, it was pretty dope. It all like, for more context, it was just well planned and well executed. That was all. I messed up. We both could be critical. I was most critical of myself when I first started watching the videos. When I first started watching the playback, it was just from the front few rows, and you don't see the big screens and you don't see the scope that it had, and all I saw was the flaws because it was still close up. It wasn't until I started getting some other videos of people that were further back that I saw that nobody saw any of those details. All they saw was the moments that they had this camera on the big screen, because you can't really see the stage that much of the details on stage. You're looking at the big screens, and that it looked good up there. Both of us looked really good up there. Like that was perfect. So it made me feel so much better, because it looks better from further away. Everything looks better from further away.
I had the
We all
same
know
experience, because the initial videos that I got were from like my team and Alyssa, who were also singing along in the
Front
video.
row,
And
yeah.
I was like, did I sound like that?
Yeah.
Just a note for people. And when you record video of other people singing and you're singing along, it's going to pick up your voice. But yeah. So those were the initial ones I got. And then one of my other team members had stood in the back up on a chair. And that was the other video I sent you. And she did it like landscape and caught the whole thing. And I was like, oh, wow, actually. But then I kept rewatching it. And then I was like, oh, I could have done this different. I should have been further up on the stage when I was singing instead of way back there. And da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah. I've got my own critics. I can give you my list of things that I would have done differently at each individual part, because I've watched it so many times. But you know what? We can't change any of that stuff now. We can only do it the next time and learn from it the next time too. One note that I would give is I could have looked at the cameras too, because that's what the screen was. So, whenever those cameras were on us, we could have looked at them and then the people would have seen us on the camera
I didn't
too.
even notice when those camera, like I just had no, you also have no
I
awareness.
didn't either because they weren't on there in the
Yeah.
rehearsal. They didn't even like, if I had done that before, I probably would have been more cognizant of the cameras, but those were really helpful. And they did show some flattering shots of us, and it was pretty cool what they did because I saw from further
Yeah.
back. But if I had known, I would have looked more at it and been a little bit more animated. Granted, this was 9 a.m. too.
Not only that, but we had
This
to
was
be in the green room
9
by what,
a.m..
8?
Yeah. But we didn't go out and party the night before. Like, that's what most people did. And most people that were there, I knew they were out the night before
Yeah.
too. And they still made it for our performance. So that was pretty
Yeah.
sweet. That was a lot of fun. I know I keep bringing it back to that because I want to make sure that like the impact of that was also like felt for us, and we don't just move on to the next thing too. I'm glad you interviewed me now too.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Because sometimes when I get back home and my feet are on the ground, my head also doesn't stay in the clouds, and things get low again.
Approximately 18 years ago, under the direction of New Zealand's Rod Drury and in the interest of computer security, a single unified ledger, Accounting 2.0, was established. This tool's primary objective was to decentralize accounting and spread this software-as-a-service model across our planet, connected by a global network of remote services called the
We
cloud.
in the cloud with zero. We 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 in the cloud with zero.
Yo, this new cloud accounting tool woke into it to bestow an evolution, a beautiful blue tech solution. Zero showed the masses what an app was with cache coding to shatter the globe's reliance on desktop as we know it. I'm talking about the grand invention around 2007 when Zero would grow out of New Zealand for technologically advanced tenants, simple finance, safe program, and browser-based sessions. 2012 had lots of skeptics, and the mobile version of our domestic desktop was pathetic. You can reject it for its soothing blue aesthetic and fail to recognize the beauty inside these debits. A very high percentage of accountants in our nation green console worshipping desktop applications. For more construction of on-site server, pricey installations, redundant ongoing IT maintenance. They gave us real-time information, can take place in several different team locations. Unlimited seats and easy collaboration. For ecosystem customization, choose your own software applications. Cause through application programming interfaces, they create integrations. Two-step secure authentication. National Zero ambassadors. People like Liz Mason, they speak and teach and made certifications. They're trying to free Western civilization from green domination. Well, you need to know that they changed the game. Cloud-based safe space with a beautiful
We in the
interface.
cloud with zero. We in the cloud with zero. We in the cloud with zero. We in the cloud with zero.
We at war. We at war with old ledgers and IRS agents. But most of all, we at war with broken bank connections.
Zero works.
Rod showed me the way because this ledger connects bank accounts.
Zero works with me.
To side hustlers, biz owners, accountants, tax preparers, even bookkeepers. Zero works for them. To the outsourced controllers, fractional CFOs, moms working from home. Zero works for them. Not Z, it's XC. Bank feeds sync cleanly. Zero keeps me and my team mostly green free. Cause desktops almost nearly extinct. We cash code clients so fast we don't blink. I ain't here to argue about new QBO features or here to convert skeptics into believers. I'm just trying to say the way these books need keepers, the way Blake really need Leary, that's the way I need Zero. So here goes my keynote, dog, we need more heroes. They say you can rap about anything except for Zero. That means funds, tax, finance, AI automate. But if I adopt cloud tech, my desktop won't integrate, huh? Well, if this really machine learning, it'll probably automate my month ends. Then the weeks turn to days to seconds and integrate everything in the cloud. Let's go ZeroCon, everybody scream it out.
Zero works.
Rod, show me the way because this ledger connects bank accounts.
Zero works
The
with
only thing
me.
that I pray is bank feeds don't fail me now.
Thank you to everyone who helps make this podcast possible. Content and interviews are produced by me, Serena Shoup. Editing is by my brother, Ian Gilliam, using his awesome sound engineering skills along with Descript software. Hosting and publishing is by Buzzsprout, and you can check out the show notes for links to all of these amazing resources and resources mentioned in the episode.
Be ambitious.